Chapter 12. I launched to my feet, pointing like a pod person. "What is he doing here?" I demanded. Colonel Rage made a patting gesture with his hand. "Calm yourself, Zeke. I know what you must be thinking, so let me just put all my cards on the table. You were right, and I was wrong. I made a bad deal with Junip, and I came to regret it." That was, in my view, putting it mildly. While the rest of us had been trying to find the hidden fortress and uncover the code of the former military tech tree, Colonel Rage had made a secret bargain to turn us and the code over to Junip. I knew why he had done it. He wasn't like Nora Price, evil and power-hungry. Colonel Rage was so focused on his duty to protect Earth that he would side with anyone, no matter how evil, if he thought things would turn out better for his home world. I partially understood this, but I also understood that when you cut deals with cruel and ambitious bad guys, you never get what you bargain for. So while I didn't hate Colonel Rage the way I hated Nora Price, I didn't want him around either. He could be useful, smart, and resourceful, but as soon as he had to choose between the right thing and what he believed to be his mission, he could be counted on to toss the right thing under the bus. Besides, when a guy you don't trust shows up at a top-secret facility, it's time to get suspicious. "How exactly did you just happen to end up here?" I demanded. "Am I supposed to believe this is coincidence? Because you being a spy for the other team seems a lot more likely to me. Maybe another deal with Junip? Or the Fads this time?" "I didn't happen to end up here," Colonel Rage explained, still using his reasonable voice. "I was recruited. I identified this alien as an insider who would be willing to work for our cause," Convex Icodosynchrion said. "Given his military background and his motivation to weaken the Phatic Empire, bringing Colonel Rage into our group seemed a wise choice." I looked at him, waiting for him to say my name, but he didn't. Had I offended him somehow?
"The name at the end of the sentence thing isn't proper etiquette when discussing military or tactical matters,"
Ajul Ip whispered in my ear.
"The protocol dropped as soon as Colonel Rage entered the room."
I silently thanked the universe for this small mercy. "So Convex Icodosynchrion sends you a message saying to come to some desolate planet on the border of Phatic space, and you grabbed a space Uber?" "He didn't send me a message, son," Colonel Rage said, making no effort to hide his impatience. "He came and got me. He was waiting for me when I got out of the John one morning and said I could come with him and fly and fight our mutual enemies, or stay and be Junip's stooge. After what happened at the hidden fortress, I didn't have to think long about that one." If Convex Icosahedron could identify Colonel Rage as someone who would be willing to help his cause, I figured he must have a pretty good intelligence network. Even better if he could position himself so he was ready to pounce the moment they got done washing their hands. He had to have the technology to infiltrate enemy facilities. I looked around the room and saw a bunch of Fads, a few aliens I didn't know, Colonel Rage, Convex Icosahedron, and Volonic. Of all of them, Volonic was the guy I trusted most, which said something about my situation. Obviously, I didn't get a vote about Colonel Rage, or anyone else, being involved in whatever they were cooking up. It was better to go along for now. "Okay, so let's hear what you have to say," I told them. In the center of the room, a holographic projection of Confederation Central appeared above the table. "As you all know," Convex Icosahedron began, "the ability of the Phatic Empire to expand and conquer was halted after Zeke Reynolds and his allies provided the Confederation with technology that brought the era of Phatic military superiority to an end. That act also revitalized this resistance movement. The period of Imperial containment did not last long, however. Following the murder of Director Glee Wixix, the being known as Junip rose to power. He made a secret alliance with the Empress, allowing her once more to pursue the expansion of her borders, in exchange for her covert support of Junip's position.
We know he encouraged the Empress to conquer the planet Earth, Zeke Reynolds' homeworld. It is my assessment that the best way to restore the more favorable balance of power is to remove Junip from his office and return Confederation leadership to a traditional pacifist, who will once more limit the Empress's ambitions.
Everyone nodded sagely, including Volonic, like this analysis so far measured up to his exacting standards. I ground my teeth. Responding to some unseen cue, the image of Confederation Central began to rotate so we could see the underside.
I have been able to infiltrate secret Confederation databases to acquire this detailed schematic of Confederation Central. My analysis has revealed a cluster of power nodules that make the entire structure vulnerable. A single small ship, if armed with a dark matter torpedo, could enter an access port here.
He gestured with a gloved hand, and a square tunnel on the underside was now glowing red.
The torpedo, if fired at precisely the right moment, will cause a chain reaction, destroying Confederation Central, thus removing Junip from the equation.
The graphic now depicted a missile, moving forward through the shaft and stroking the power nodules. Animated waves of energy radiated outward, and the animated Confederation Central began to break apart before being consumed by flames. The various aliens in the room murmured with approval.
The destruction of this city will produce numerous beneficial results,
Convex icosahedron continued.
Power will shift elsewhere, and based on my analysis of the surviving politicians, the Confederation will fall into more traditional, peaceful hands. The Phatic Empire will once more be contained. This is, without doubt, the most certain method of restoring order to the Confederation, the consequence of which will be greater galactic stability. Any questions?
No one had any. They all nodded, like this plan made complete sense. I, however, had many questions, but none more pressing than whether or not they were completely insane. Are you telling me you want to Death Star the capital of the Confederation? I asked, somehow keeping the horror out of my voice. Your fantasy stories aren't really relevant to our cause, Zeke, the Colonel said gently. Do you have a point to make? The point, I said, is not that the plan comes right out of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. The point is that it's bonkers. You want to destroy the capital of the Confederation, a city with millions of beings, just to get rid of Junip? Doesn't that seem a little excessive?
I have run the numbers,
Convex icosahedron said,
and this plan provides a near 100% chance of success. Nothing else even comes close to that level of certainty.
If you're so bent on killing beings, why not send someone to Confederation Central to take out Junip?
We are not assassins,
Convex icosahedron explained with an unmistakably insulted tone. I took a deep breath and tried not to sound hysterical. Then send someone to kidnap him. Put him in jail. There are better options here than destroying an entire city.
I'm afraid there are not,
said Convex icosahedron.
I appreciate your earnest desire to preserve life, but you cannot suppose we have not considered what you propose. I reviewed all possible projections, and the numbers don't support those approaches. The assassination scenario has a 47.0978% chance of either failing outright or resulting in a similarly inclined politician rising to power. The numbers on the kidnapping scenario are even worse. In both cases, the likelihood of the Phatic Empire discovering our operation is unacceptably high. When you project these numbers out, over just the next century, the loss of innocent life is nearly triple that is involved in the destruction of Confederation Central. The plan I have proposed is by far the least costly in terms of bloodshed. and that is only over 100 years. Over 200 or 500, the numbers of lives saved becomes astounding. There really is no other option. I hope you will see that because your skill with dark matter missiles is legendary, and we wish for you to pilot the ship that will destroy Junip's power base.
Calling it Junip's power base did not change the fact that it was a city full of millions of beings going about their business. I was not about to play any part in their ridiculous plan. I'd sabotage it if I had to, though I hardly knew how I could do that. Don't you see that if you try to carry this out, you become evil? Colonel Rage, haven't you learned this lesson yet? If you want to be one of the good guys, you have to act like one of the good guys. You don't kill innocent beings because some computer program tells you the numbers say it's the best way to go. You've got a good heart, son, and I appreciate that, Colonel Rage said. But these folks are the Resistance. It's their show. If they think this is how we get the aliens off Earth, then I'm in favor of it. Once again, Colonel Rage was only worrying about Earth. It was natural, maybe even smart, to put his own planet first, but he kept thinking of our homeworld as an isolated speck in the galaxy. It wasn't anymore, though. We were part of this community now, and what happened in the Confederation mattered to us. I wanted to try and explain this, but I knew he wouldn't listen. They had all decided that I was some idealistic kid who was too starry-eyed to see the hard truths. You want everything to be black and white, Colonel Rage continued. But you don't know how politics or politicians work. Once Glee-Wixix died, there was a powerful shift in how the Confederation saw Earth and its place in the galaxy. I understand these things in a way you simply can't. I've even tried to talk them into helping Earth.
It's true,
Ajul said.
He did.
They had a plan, the Colonel told me. The planet's conquest was a high-profile deal in the Phatic media, so they thought if they could liberate Earth, it would set off a chain reaction that would destabilize the Empire and bring down Junip. I even talked them into opening up one of their transporter tunnels to Earth. That's your obscure escape planet? I asked Ajul.
It serves our purposes, he said. And if we had to get away in an emergency, it makes sense to go someplace we could help to create an uprising against the Empress.
So let's do that, I said. I like that plan.
Sadly, the projections do not look promising,
Convex Icosahedron said.
You will see that there are too many ways for things to go wrong. Too many risks. The elimination of Confederation Central is much cleaner and more precise, more predictable. The numbers are always truthful.
I stood up, because I realized I had them. I knew something they didn't know, and that meant all their predictions were out of whack. Yeah? Well, your numbers are wrong because your information is wrong. Director Glee-Wixix is alive. This had their attention. Everyone turned to look at me with utter fascination. Everyone but Volonic, who was cleaning his fingernails and humming softly.
How could you know this?
Ajul demanded.
What is your source?
Dr. Roop, I said. He dug into the files while he was holed up in the hidden fortress. Our plan was to rescue Glee-Wixix. Once she was restored to office, Junip would be exposed, and then things would go back to the way they were. We still have the problem of the former military tech tree, but that's a long-term one. In the short term, the fads are back to being contained, and it's done with maybe no violence at all. Convex Icosahedron cocked his 20-sided head, as if giving the matter some thought. Maybe it was my imagination, but the colors seemed to be cycling more rapidly.
If this is true, and if the rescue mission were to proceed successfully, then the operation would have nearly as high a chance of success as the one already proposed. Unfortunately, even a preliminary review of the numbers indicates that there are too many things that could go wrong during a rescue attempt. There is even a roughly 32% chance of Glee-Wixix being killed while escaping, our operatives being captured, and this base being discovered before we can return to the original plan. No, destroying Confederation Central remains our best option.
Hold on, Colonel Rage said. You made it clear that, even without Junip, the political situation was too unstable to play out dependably. But if the old director is alive, then it changes everything. It guarantees a return to the way things were before.
Yes, the numbers trend towards stability,
Convex Icosahyncrion agreed.
but that does not alter the fact that the odds of getting to that point of stability are unfavorable.
It sounds to me like it's a chance worth taking, the colonel continued. I wasn't going to oppose this operation if we were going to trade Junip for another alien just like him, but if Zeke is right, and we have a shot of returning things to the status quo prior to Junip's rise to power, we should take it.
It is a risk,
said Thidley-Bach.
If Zeke's plan were to fail, then we would have lost everything and exposed our movement. I'm inclined to agree,
Adjul Ip said.
We have an opportunity before us. A genuine opportunity to reshape galactic politics for centuries to come. Think of it, an end to conquest and war. I will remind everyone that Convex Icosahyncrion has projected that if Confederation Central is destroyed, there is an 87% chance that within 20 years, the Phagic Empire will transition to a peaceful representative government of the Confederation model. No one wants to destroy a city, but think what we gain. Further generations will thank us.
There was a murmur of assent all around the room. They actually meant to blow up Confederation Central rather than rescue Glee-Wixix. No, it was more terrifying than that. This wasn't some thought experiment. I was sitting in on a meeting with a bunch of lunatics who loved the idea of destroying the greatest place that ever existed because a wacko without a face thought that the numbers looked pretty good. I slowly sat back down because I was afraid I was going to barf. There was no way I would fly the mission, but my sitting it out wouldn't stop this terrible thing from happening. The Renegades would just find another pilot. Maybe I could sabotage a ship, or even a base. But this thing was bigger than I was. I'd made my best arguments, and they had ignored them. I had been outvoted, and I did not see any way their minds were going to change. Convex Icosahyncrion now inclined his gigantic head towards Volonic.
What do you think?
Volonic looked up from his very interesting fingernails.
I beg your pardon? What was the question? Do you agree with Zeke, or the rest of us?
Volonic smiled.
Oh, my opinion, of course. Well, I know Zeke's interpersonal skills are quite poor, but in the past his schemes have proved remarkably successful. I think we should do things his way.
Convex Icosahedron appeared to consider this. You can't really tell with a guy who has a geometric shape for a head, but he put one hand on his hip and the other on the spot that might have been his chin. It looked sort of thoughtful.
That being the case,
Convex Icosahedron said,
we should look into Zeke's plan more carefully.
I was about to object on the grounds that there was no rational reason to pursue a plan just because Volonic liked it, but I realized I would be arguing against my own position. The only thing crazier than them wanting to destroy Confederation Central was Convex Icosahedron changing his mind because Volonic had chimed in. Something about this didn't sit right with me. I was going to have to keep my eye on things.
I will need to meet with Zeke privately so I can learn more about where Glee-Wixix is being held,
Convex Icosahedron said.
Once we formulate a plan, we will discuss putting together a team.
I already have a team, I said quickly. This could be my chance to help rescue my friends. Or, at least, I did. The first step to finding out where they are and getting them back.
I'm sure you have faith in your friends,
said Colonel Rage.
and you've all done some impressive things, but they are just kids. I don't think you can make the case that they're vital to any operation.
I can make the case, I said. My friends have maxed out skill trees, both original and former. I neglected to mention that the augments were unreliable because, well, that was private, wasn't it? And my pronouncement got everyone's attention, so there was no point in undermining it.
These are going to prove to be very interesting numbers indeed,
said Convex Icosahedron. So, will you help me look for my friends? There was this guy, Ardov. He managed to gain control of our ship. I don't know where it went.
Yes,
said Convex Icosahedron.
we know about Ardov, and we know where he took your friends. Unfortunately, I don't think you are going to like it.